Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to the Ad-Pocalypse for Call of Duty YouTubers. Right now I'm playing a little bit of Modern Warfare Remastered, and I'm seriously doubting my game choices and kind of concerned about my next year for Call of Duty. Not that CoD WW2 is a bad game. As a matter of fact, it's looking fantastic, and it's looking very popular, but right now YouTube has policies in place that are preventing other YouTubers from monetizing, therefore making money, from Call of Duty World War II videos. This is only starting to affect me. I've only had it hit me a little bit, so I'm doing better than most people, but it's really hurting other YouTubers. It's making waves big enough to where we get our own Kotaku article, which means it must be a big issue because Call of Duty YouTubing is generally outside the interest of news organizations and Kotaku and big PC-based gaming news companies. It's bad because most YouTubers that I know are seeing losses of around 90% of their revenue. And I'm being serious here in that when it comes to Call of Duty videos, at least those that get demonetized or put into the lower tier of advertising, they're losing 90% of their revenue. And I don't care how much money you're making in your life. I don't care if you're making, $1 million a year, or $100,000 a year, or $10,000 a year. When you lose 90% of that, that's a huge change. Imagine the average American worker makes about 50 grand a year, something like that. Imagine if that were subject to be reduced to $5,000 at any time for any reason, and it would be permanent. Now you would say, who cares? Who cares what happens to Call of Duty YouTubers? You guys are all scumbags, you only care about money, you're overpaid anyway, and without arguing about all of those sentiments, I'll say, okay, all of us are overpaid, that's fine. Well, how this affects you is it could severely reduce the amount and the quality of Call of Duty content on YouTube for next year, and if this trend continues into the future, right? And you're going to say, well, this is obviously proof that you guys only want money and you never liked this game, and you're just going to jump ship for the next best thing. And that's not true. The majority of people that I know that make Call of Duty videos do it because we enjoy this and we love doing it, but we decided to do it full time. We decided to do it every day, high quality, cover all the news, that sort of stuff. And in doing so, we chose to forego normal jobs. You can't work a normal 9-to-5 job and do this, or at least do this very well, or you can not do it and have a social life. If you work your job and then go home and have no social life and just make Call of Duty videos, you could make it work. But we passed on the full job thing, decided to do this full time, and financially it's been good for most YouTubers. Without the financial support from the advertisement revenue, very few Call of Duty YouTubers will be able to afford to do this as a full-time job, as it will begin paying sub-minimum wage kind of income. What that means is the people that you know and love on YouTube that make your COD content will have a choice either to move in with their parents, go into extreme debt, return to work at some kind of full-time job, or simply just post other video games. And pretty much any of these choices would greatly decrease the amount and quality of COD content, and you wouldn't notice it. Do you remember this video from me just a day or two ago about Nazis, swastikas, and censorships? Well, it was actually a test on my end of Google's AI and their human review process, both of which failed spectacularly. The video itself did not have any Nazi propaganda, it did not have any war footage, it did not have a political leaning, it was not about neo-Nazi content, and honestly, it was very brief on historical images or even offensive things. I will admit that I pushed the rules with the thumbnail a little bit, and I didn't even talk about Nazis that much. I talked about German laws and a lot of other things, yet I made sure to have in the title the word Nazi and swastika, and I put it in the tags and descriptions, and it was immediately flagged for demonetization, which did not surprise me. That means the AI was kind of doing its job, but then when I did the review process, it took a couple days, and a human reviewer deemed it not advertiser friendly, and I found out that's permanent. Once you do the first appeal, there is no second appeal process. All of my monetization options for the video have been removed or grayed out, so no matter what I do to it, I can't change it. I can either take it down or just leave it as is, and it's kind of stuck like that. And the AI works basically like a search algorithm. I hardly should call it an AI. It's more of a glorified search algorithm, but what it does is it searches for bad stuff to demonetize. And obviously, yeah, it'll search for Nazi, it'll search for racist stuff, it'll search for swastikas and some very, very simple things, which makes sense. But the review process is supposed to be human. Like, there's supposed to be a person on the other side that reviews this to make sure it's not horrible or racist or kind of on point. which means that I'm pretty sure nobody reviewed my video at all. They just kind of glanced over it and said, this doesn't look very good. And I also know that appeals just don't go through on the weekends. If I'm going to make an offensive or questionable video, I damn well better do it during the week. And the context doesn't seem to matter at all. So far I've had 2 videos deemed not advertiser friendly. The first one was a story about quitting Zoloft, which is a depression medication. It's an SSRI inhibitor, and how hard it was on me, and how I encouraged you to talk to your doctor about it before taking the medication, to beware of the side effects. And it was a video about quitting addiction and you know, mental health issues and things like that. That was deemed not advertiser friendly for drug related content, obviously. Now that was an appeal that I did win. And the other one being the Nazi censorship video, where I talked about if it was appropriate to censor swastikas from history, and if that's revisionist history, and if it causes us to lose the sort of moral lessons that we learned from World War II, that got deemed not advertiser friendly, which leads me to a bigger issue of YouTube's policies itself and advertiser pressures. One of the things I have to deal with is that the demonetization policies are super vague and super broad. I'm going to go ahead and throw them up on the screen very briefly, and I'm going to read a few and talk about them. I'll probably take it down because it's a little boring to keep up there forever. But content that is considered not advertiser friendly includes, but is not limited to, sexually suggestive content, including partial nudity and sexual humor. Well, that pretty much blows up every skit channel, every comedy channel, and every sort of prank channel that's gone sexual. And they have some interesting things in the LGBT section as well, which pretty much any topic about gayness or homosexuality or trans rights are considered sexually suggestive, which is a little bit strange. Violence, including display of serious injury and events related to violent extremism, is considered not advertiser friendly, which makes sense because advertisers don't want their stuff on war videos, ISIS videos, Al-Qaeda videos, like the found footage sort of things. But it's very vague. That could easily include video games, movie clips, or just about anything else where somebody gets hurt. There's inappropriate language, including harassment, profanity, and vulgar language. Well, that blows up about half the channels on YouTube. And I've been trying to make mine a little bit more adult lately and throw in a few swear words when appropriate, so I'm gonna have to scale that back. Of note, the tool that YouTube has to add automatic subtitles will get a text script of your video, so if you say bad words about terrorist organizations that shall not be named, or if you curse, those are thrown into a sort of secret tags bucket so they can flag you for what you're talking about. Promotion of drugs and regulated substances, now we already talked about that with Zoloft. And finally, the one that worries me the most at the bottom, which is controversial or sensitive subjects and events, including subjects related to war, political conflicts, natural disasters, and tragedies, even if graphic imagery is not shown. So that means talking about political strife, that means talking about civil war, that means talking about historical war, that means talking about a great deal of history, news, current events, anything on which it would be very important to have an opinion to express is going to be considered not advertiser friendly. And that's so vague that could just completely blow up news on YouTube. It would be just gone. And I think that is the most dangerous thing, is that it sort of censors any sort of outspoken opinion, or really any opinion at all. And finally, one thing I didn't notice before that kind of scares me, it says if any of the above describes a portion of your video, then the video may not be approved for monetization. Okay. If monetization is approved, your video may not be eligible for all available formats, which is why people are only making 10% or 5% of the income they used to. And it also says that YouTube can suspend monetization features on a channel that repeatedly violates these policies. So if you're uploading videos and you're continually getting deflagged for monetization, you're going to be put into a lower tier bucket for demonetization, where all of your videos are viewed with skepticism, where you lose ad features, where you lose types of advertisements, where maybe you just lose permissions altogether. And in this instance for Call of Duty, that might be something that you can't control because the game is about World War II. And anytime you upload something with World War II in the title, it's going to happen again and again and again until all these YouTubers are forced to just not have advertisements, which I think is a very bad thing. I think that in the long run, this is going to sterilize a vibrant creative community because, like it or not, YouTube's kind of like the Wild West of art right now. There's a lot of room for crazy things. There's a lot of room for experimental things. A lot of new up-and-coming celebrities, filmographers, they're getting their start here on YouTube, which is fantastic. Now, obviously, vibrant and Wild West means there's going to be some garbage out there. There's neo-Nazi stuff, there's racism stuff, there's murder porn and whatever, and like people love when protesters get run over. I already did that video. But it's sort of going to kill the creativity, and My experience is that when you try to appeal to everyone, you end up appealing to no one. Given how much YouTubers dislike dealing with this, it also creates room for a new competitor to arise. And finally, before you get on your bandwagon about leftist and Google and liberal this and that and censorship and neoliberalism or whatever, I want you to keep in mind that it was actually not YouTube itself that decided to do this, but the advertisers who demanded it, or demanded some kind of change in response to their adverts being put on what they consider to be hate videos. And these advertisers are rich old dudes that wear suits, cruise around in yachts, own mansions, have trophy wives, they own Fortune 500 companies. You know, the old, like, Mr. Burns, diehard, big business, barren capitalism, Republican types. Very conservative, very right-wing. Well, they demanded changes to the advertisement platform so that something would be done about this because, well, there's some left component as well, because viewers online did not like seeing advertisements for big brands on racist videos. They made news articles about it, they made a big stink about it, and it hurt the brands. So we get this very sterilized content because they're going to have to force us to adapt to their advertising policies. I think this is going to be very detrimental to YouTube. I hope YouTube changes their policies sometime soon. I hope we get a better, smarter algorithm. Maybe something will change, but right now all I can do is sit around and complain about it. Guys, that's all for this video. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.